Inflation has caused the price of things to nearly double in the last 27 years. Does Moneybags know? He must be salivating right now. Born in the wrong generation, am I right? But that got me thinking, wow, Spyro is old. I feel old. But also, can you beat the Spyro the Dragon trilogy if the price of gem payments are what they should be today, in February 2025? Let's find out. Here are the rules. We're playing the original games because the run doesn't really work as well with the Reignited trilogy. Inflation has occurred, but not as much comparatively. We want a challenge, right? We will not be using glitches. Okay. No glitches that specifically give us an advantage. And yes, I did not get that one gem from the dog and had to redo the level. Flying through this wall in Alpine Ridge is fine. That's just for swag. What I mean by no glitches is no skipping Moneybags by double jumping or proxying. Otherwise, Spyro 2 would be technically exciting, but I'd just double jump over a bridge, proxy a frog, clip through the ceiling, ascend the castle the wrong way, clip through a breakable wall, proxy a penguin, and then glide straight into the Ripto fight ignoring Moneybags. So that kind of defeats the point, right? The final rule is try not to cry over how expensive things are nowadays. It's at times like this I like to think of a quote by the great philosopher Tealgamemaster. With the passage of time, this challenge gets harder. Soon it will be impossible. Wise words to live by. Let's begin. Spyro the Dragon, my beloved. I love this game, and I've only come to appreciate it more as the years go on. And speaking of years, yeah, inflation. There are two types of inflation. One is definitely a kink that people have. The other is the rising amount of currency. In this instance, we'll be using the dollar, as Insomniac Games is an American dev team. $1 in 1998 is worth $1.94 today in 2025. The first game only has 2 payments to the Balloonist. For this challenge, we're not classing dragons as a currency to inflate. Same goes for the orbs or the dragon eggs. You don't give the Balloonist the 50 dragons. You're not selling them into slavery. You're saving them. Even the tax-dodging dragons. The first payment is in the second homeworld, Peacekeepers, where the Balloonist wants 1,200 gems in stolen treasure. Sorry, that's before inflation. 2,323 gems in stolen treasure. Which, actually, is pretty achievable. There are 3,000 gems between the first 2 homeworlds. Even if hypothetically Spyro unlocked the ability to do speedways later in the game, you'd still have enough. But the second payment... that's a little tricky. In Dreamweavers, he wants 6,000 gems, which, adjusted for inflation, is 11,613. This is simply not possible, as up until this point, you can only get 10,500. Even if, hypothetically, he was blocking just the Nasty Nork level, that's still not enough, as there's only 11,500 up until that point. So, Spyro the Dragon is a dead end. If I made this challenge in 2021, it'd be way easier. The leap of the price of the dollar from 2021 to 2022 is crazy, but to be fair, the pound is no better. Worse, even. The pandemic really did a number on the world. But don't worry, because now the challenge gets interesting. Enter Moneybags. Moneybags asserts his dominance in the first level of Spyro 2, Glimmer. He wants a seemingly small 100 gems. But this is no ordinary playthrough. The inflation rate from 1999 to 2025 is $1.89. Assuming you're not using glitches, which we're not for this playthrough, the maximum amount of gems you can collect before reaching Moneybags is 191. This is why I said at the beginning this will be impossible soon. Yes, I was that great philosopher. Shock! Horror! Pause for gasp. I'm telling you right now, regardless of what happens in the world, in just a few months, this will no longer be possible. Crazy, right? With that first roadblock behind us, we must collect all that we can within Glimmer. You can actually get to the top of the ladder by flying, which isn't a glitch, but it wasn't the intended path, so we'll leave those gems for later, meaning we exit Glimmer with 164 gems. I know it says 253 on screen, but that's because the game doesn't take away the inflated amount. I have to do all those calculations with my trusty notepad, pen, and calculator. What I find fascinating about this playthrough is how much of a burden the costs are when you actually think about how much you pay per level. Swimming is usually 500 gems, and that would require you to head into an extra level to collect 400 gems, plus some in Glimmer or Summer Forest. But now it's 946.86, rounding up to 947 gems. That's 2 full levels plus a little more. Not to mention you can't actually get all the gems in Idle Springs because some are underwater. Doing as much as I can, the game stated I had 1,128 gems before buying the swimming ability. But in reality, that left me with just 92 gems, because of the 947 gems for swimming, plus the 89 from the first payment. I'm aware this is a little confusing, so I've made this chart which I hope makes it less confusing. Every level in Spyro 2 has 400 gems, and thankfully there's a decent gap between that payment and the next. We can mostly complete Summer Forest, get the final gems in Idle Springs, head to Hurricos, succeed in Sunny Beach, and finish the first Speedway, netting us 2,094 gems, until the burden of the Aquaria Tower's wall strips a bunch of that away from us. But hey, I've still got 801, which is more than enough for the submarine in Aquaria Towers. Upon reaching Autumn Plains, I pick up most of the gems from the bottom area, before purchasing a rather expensive climbing ability. It's only 500 gems, but much like swimming, it's now 947, so that drained me to just over 200 gems. At this point, honestly, Autumn Plains is pretty straightforward. I backtracked to collect the final gems from Summer Forest, Glimmer and Sunny Beach, then assembled all the gems within Autumn Plains, Skelos Badlands, Breeze Harbour and Metro Speedway. The now 379 gem fee in Crystal Glacier was paid out by the gems within the level. Zephyr is pretty expensive at 757 gems, but the contents of 2 of the 3 levels covers that. The 379 payment for the lift in Magma Cone is covered for by itself. And then finally, the entrance to Shady Oasis is expensive at 757, but much like Zephyr, the gems from Fracture Hills and Scorch are more than enough to pay for the entrance. Even if they somehow weren't, I could pay the now 189 gem fee to get into Icy Speedway, and then make a 211 gem bonus, but that's academic. All that's left is the head bash, and yeah, we almost have enough already. We're a couple gems short, but there's more than enough surrounding it that we can pick up. And there's also 2 full levels that we have access to, so yes, Spyro 2 can be completed. The biggest challenge lies in the first payment, which, as I said, will become impossible soon. But that leads into the final game of the trilogy, Spyro Year of the Dragon. Much like Spyro 2, it's kind of easy. There are actually only 6 times you need to pay Moneybags if you're not using glitches. To pay for Sheila's safety, the platforms in Cloud Spires, Sergeant Bird's freedom, Spooky Swamp's door, Charmed Ridge's stairs, and breaking out Bentley. The rest aren't necessary if you can collect enough eggs, which you absolutely can. So I decided to make this more interesting. Buy everything Moneybags is selling. The bear gets around a bit, and I want to invest in those deals. The price of the dollar comparatively is actually a lot less in 2000. $1 then, $1.83 today. But that doesn't mean this will be easy. Sheila's freedom now costs 550 gems, so we'll have to go into a level before we can pay to save her. I could have gone into Cloud Spires, but I knew Moneybags was waiting, so I figured it was probably best to collect all 400 gems in Sunrise Spring Homeworld, and then head into Sunny Villa. It's at this point we meet the true villain. Moneybags isn't our problem, he's just trying to earn some bread. No, the true villain is Hunter. He has found multiple dragon eggs and decides to not give them unless we beat him at some kind of game. Hunter has kidnapped children and is selling them by gambling. What kind of sick freak does that? We collect most of the gems in Sunny Villa as some are locked behind the Sheila mission, then we pay for Sheila's freedom. I decided to clear her level and then backtrack to collect all the gems in Sunny Villa before entering Cloud Spires. The platforms in Cloud Spires now cost 366 gems, which we are easily able to pay for thanks to Sheila's Alps gems. Moneybags has decided to become a bodyguard for the thief door in Molten Crater, which at this point I shall ask, why? All of the places he shows up feel very random. Guess you go where the job is, right? To get into the door, it's now 550 gems, nearly a level and a half worth of gems. It's pretty pricey, but we can pay with 300 to spare. I then swam through Seashell Shore, collected the gems in the Speedway, and made my way to the second homeworld, with a brief intermission from an aggressive bogey. I'd been collecting a lot of eggs up until this point, so I thought it would be wise to get every gem in the homeworld, and since it was unlocked, complete the next Speedway. And I did this because something big was coming. Sergeant Bird's new price for freedom is 1,282 gems. Yikes. Now, that is a lot for sure, but it's not as bad when you know how this game differs from Spyro 2. In this game, all the homeworlds and speedways have 400 gems each, but the main levels within them go up with each homeworld. First 400, then 500, 600, and 700 gems per level in the final homeworld. Prior to the Super Bonus World, there's a whopping 15,000 gems to collect, but whilst that number is large, it'll diminish over time. The overall cost of Sergeant Bird plus previous payments was 1,948, and thanks to collecting gems in the homeworld and speedway, I had 2,691 to play with, so it could be worse. I cleared Sergeant Bird's level and backtracked to Molten Crater to beat the Bird's bonus stage for some more gems. Oh, but look! Sparks has some levels too! After you beat the boss of a world, when you return to the homeworld, Zoe will have a mini level for Sparks with 200 gems. Every gem counts, so of course we'll be doing this. Oh, but wait. That means the final Sparks mission is only available after defeating the Sorceress. So that means if we want to pay every Moneybags before the final boss, 200 gems are off the table. That makes things a little trickier, doesn't it? So there is a small caveat in place. I am trying to pay for Moneybags more or less when I see him, but I will save one payment for last. I've decided that one will be the ballet entry in Icy Peak, as you don't get any gems behind it, and I knew the final homeworld would be brutal. There are 3 very expensive payments, which will make the game a real challenge without a little help. So, let's go! I cleared every level in the homeworld and saved Spooky Swamp's door for last. It's now 916 gems, making it a total of 2,164 that I require. But that's fine! All the levels I've done thus far means I've accumulated 4,330. Nothing to worry about. When I arrived at the 3rd homeworld, I sucked up all the gems and then went and paid for Bentley. He now costs an incredible 1,832 gems. I can happily pay for it, but I now only have 1,015 gems left. My advantage just slipped away. But hey, there are plenty of levels here, and they have 600 gems within them. But despite that large amount of gems, the reality is, Bentley now costs more than 3 full levels worth of gems. Whichever way you slice it, that's a lot. I backtracked to the 2nd homeworld, cleared the bonus Bentley stage, suffered through Sparks' level, and made the trip back to the 3rd homeworld where many stages awaited. I cleared Lost Fleet and the Speedway before Hunter fell for the world's most obvious trap, and figured I'd be fine paying for the stairs in Charmed Ridge. They now cost 1,099 gems, but I'm good for the cash. So we paid for that, got the golden goose, but reluctantly handed it over to Jack, knowing I could make a killing. If I gave that to Moneybags, he'd never have to beg me for gems ever again! Though he probably still would. I finished as much of Fireworks Factory as I could, and then froze in Frozen Altars. Not because of the cold, but because of how much Moneybags was charging me to play some cat hockey. 1,466 gems? Are you mad? But now here comes the fun part. What this whole game was leading towards. Upon arriving in Midnight Mountain, I collected all the gems and decided to free Agent 9 as soon as I could, so I could do the backtracking. He now costs 2,382 gems, meaning I need to be holding 6,043 gems. I have 6,125. I grant you, I could have entered the Speedway or another level, but still, that has wiped me out. I have less than 100 gems before I begin this homeworld properly, and there's a lot of payments to go. I complete Agent 9's lab, do the usual backtracking, succeed with Sparks, and avoid disaster in the Doom section of Fireworks Factory. Barely. And now the final trek begins. I start with the stages that don't have payments, so the final Speedway, Dino Mines, and Haunted Tomb. Those 3 combined contain 1,800 gems, which certainly helps. But then I head to Crystal Islands, where the bridge costs 1,832. Every gem I had collected in those 3 levels had been wiped out. But I'm not left with nothing, far from it. I had 82 before Agent 9's lab, but then his level had 700, plus 200 from Sparks, and then a couple more in Fireworks Factory. Then of course I have the 700 from Crystal Islands. Moneybags may be charging me a fortune, but he ain't gonna stop me from collecting gems in the level. Moneybags was charging a ridiculous 1,466 to get into the door in Desert Ruins. A total of 7,041 gems was needed, but I have 7,848 with 252 gems left to collect within the level. Upon completing that, I head back to pay for the ballet. It costs 917 gems now. You might have worked it out already. To pay for this, I need 7,157 gems. I've collected every gem that can be collected up until this point. I have 7,300 gems. There are only 143 gems leeway in the entire game. By the end of this year, maybe even a couple of months, this will be impossible to complete. Without leaving one of the payments for last, I wouldn't have been able to complete the final world, as there were always more than 143 gems beyond the point you pay Moneybags. So there you have it. Spyro 1 is the only game you can't do. Or is it? I want to use silly semantics. The Balloonist doesn't take your money. He just wants proof of 6,000 gems, which means the price wouldn't rise for inflation. He gives a hard 6,000 gems request. You can argue it either way, but if you would prefer that I beat the entire trilogy, which I do, then that's your excuse to say I did. Oh, and if you're wondering, Moneybags shows up in the first level of Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, and it's strangely the only time in the game. You could argue it's an oversight from the devs, but I like to think of it as a mercy. Moneybags only wants 200 gems. Inflation makes the dollar $1.75 compared to 2002, so you only need 351 gems, of which there are more than 500, so it's hardly noteworthy. Moneybags, you're a failure. And also a cheat! I attacked Moneybags at the end of Spyro 3, and he didn't give me back 14,657 gems. He only gave me 8,000 back. What's that about? So, some fun facts before we end this silly experiment. The amount you need to pay Moneybags combined is 22,420 gems. The exclusively inflated gems from both games are 3,663 gems in Spyro 2 and 6,657 in Spyro 3. A combined total of 10,320 extra gems across the two games. I said Moneybags 24 times. I said gem or gems, including just now, 84 times. And finally, and I can't reinforce this fact enough, if you attempt this challenge without cheating in a couple of months, it will be impossible. Thank you very much for watching. I apologise for breaking your brain with a lot of maths. If you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate you subscribing for more videos like this. You can find a lot of fun stuff on the channel. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.